The NHL season is fast approaching, and I don't know about you, but I cannot wait for that puck to drop. A lot was learned throughout the duration of last season. The off-season was fairly eventful, and there is a lot to look forward to, so let's get right into it. Here are 6 things you need to know for this NHL season. Must-see games. Now, aside from watching your favorite teams, there are a few important games everyone should know about going into the season. October 10th, the Seattle Kraken face off against the Vegas Golden Knights. The champion Golden Knights will raise their Stanley Cup banner against Calder Trophy winner Matty Beniers and the Seattle Kraken on opening night of the 2023-24 season. Vegas, which hoisted the cup on home ice after a 9-3 win against the Florida Panthers in Game 5 of the finals, is hoping to repeat as champions. As for Seattle, they're looking to build off an impressive second season in the NHL as they reach the Western Conference second round. Also on opening night, the Chicago Blackhawks face off against the Pittsburgh Penguins. First-round pick and generational talent Connor Bedard hits the ice for the first time, and what better way to make his NHL debut than against another generational talent like Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is not a moment you want to miss. Also, from November 16th to 19th, the 2023 NHL Global Series is happening. The Maple Leafs, the Detroit Red Wings, the Minnesota Wild, and the Ottawa Senators will take part in a round-robin set of regular season games in Stockholm, Sweden. The Red Wings will play the Senators on November 16th, and then the Maple Leafs on November 17th. The Wild will play the Senators on November 18th, and the series will wrap up with the Wild against the Maple Leafs on November 19th. Then, on December 23rd, the Vegas Golden Knights face off against the Florida Panthers, which is a Stanley Cup final rematch. It will be a few months into the season before the Panthers and the Golden Knights face off for the first time since the Stanley Cup finals. The Panthers, who squeaked into the playoffs last year, were arguably the most entertaining team to watch as they advanced to the finals before losing to the Golden Knights. This is a rematch that the Panthers and all of us should have circled on the calendar. Phil Kessel's Iron Man streak. The 3-time Stanley Cup champion wants to play again in the 2023-24 season. But the most significant detail here is that he's let teams know that it won't be a problem if he's not an everyday player. Kessel is the NHL's Iron Man, the only player in league history to play 1,000 games in a row. His current streak is 1,064, which is 75 more than Keith Yandle, whose record Kessel broke last season. Kessel letting teams know this detail in advance is important because ending these streaks causes enormous stress if there is not buy-in from the player. In the 2020-21 season, for example, Florida teammates made their displeasure very clear when the Panthers wanted to scratch Yandle from the lineup at the start of the season. Kessel had 14 goals and 36 points last season, so he is still definitely a factor on the ice. He's also 8 points away from hitting that 1,000 mark. The other thing that helps him at age 35 is that he's eligible to sign a 1-year minimum contract with bonuses that could slide to next season. There's not much cap space available right now, so that's a benefit for anyone seeking a scorer. The President's Trophy curse. In the 2022-23 season, the majority of us, whether or not we like the Boston Bruins, expected them to win the Stanley Cup based on their unbelievable regular season performance. And we were all wrong, all thanks to something that we like to call the President's Trophy curse. Now, it's not like there is a specific curse placed solely around the team that wins the President's Trophy, but it definitely puts a lot more pressure on the team. For example, the Bruins finished last season with 135 points, the Carolina Hurricanes followed up with 113, the Devils had 112, and the Toronto Maple Leafs had 111, and all of these teams matched or had more regular season points than the Stanley Cup champion Golden Knights. With this salary cap and playoff structure, there are at least 5 cup contenders at any given moment. Even with your best odds, there's about a 26% chance you win the cup as a number 1 seed. Who knows if this curse is real? I mean, the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win in all of pro sports, and in playoff hockey, anything could happen. The game of hockey is growing. The NHL took some positive steps when it comes to growing the game over the last year. There was the NHL on TNT panel and general coverage of rights holder events like the Winter Classic and the Stanley Cup Final. All of this new coverage and attention is definitely filling a void hockey fans never quite had filled. With TNT specifically, no one can deny that the goofy Paul Bissonnette has pulled the best out of the NHL GOAT Wayne Gretzky, as we've seen him definitely come out of his shell on these broadcasts. Then, of course, you have investors like Ryan Reynolds and Snoop Dogg trying to get in on the Ottawa Senators. Now, although they didn't win, they certainly drew attention and interest in the league to different demographics. When asked about buying an NHL team, Snoop Dogg had this to say. Right now, the NBA and the NHL are having some great playoff games. The kids need to know that there is an option to play hockey if you look like me. Sports can find a way to become more family and more organized and find ways to do things. Now, these kids can learn how to play the sport. They can understand that there is another way out. You don't have to play football or basketball or baseball. Here's another option. The future is bright. There's been an increase in scoring in the NHL the past few years that exploded in the 2022-23 season. Now you've got multi-trophy winner Cale Makar setting a fast-paced, positionless tone for the entire league in his generation, along with fellow defensemen Adam Fox and Rasmus Dahlin rocking similar vibes. Then there's Jason Robinson emerging as the second-round phenom who became a franchise cornerstone, and Jack Hughes growing into the player we all wanted him to be. Then you also have Trevor Zegras playing on a team with the worst goal differentials of all time, but still impressing everyone league-wide and inspiring all the kids at home watching the game. Plus, how can I not mention the generational talent like Connor Bedard joining the league? With all this skill, the speed, and talent, the NHL is gearing up for what could be the most entertaining season we've seen in a long time. Breakout players to watch. Shane Wright, the Seattle Kraken. Seattle Kraken forward Shane Wright was one of the few players who were an overwhelming favorite to go number 1 in the 2022 NHL draft. However, 3 other teams had plans and he was drafted 4th overall by Seattle. His rookie season did not pan out that well as he was first sent to the minors, then back to the OHL, where he was then traded to the Windsor Spitfires. This was definitely a setback for Wright on his path to the NHL. He handled it well on the ice and performed well last season under the circumstances. With the AHL Valley Firebirds, Wright had 4 goals and 2 assists for 6 points in 8 games. After the trade to the Spitfires, Wright posted 15 goals and 22 assists for 37 points in 20 games. During his short stint with the Kraken, he had 2 points in 8 games played. Now, with the last season behind him, Wright has shown he has the skill and work ethic to be with the Kraken in Game 1. We can very well see Wright making the Seattle Kraken roster out of training camp and being placed in the middle 6 to start. Shane Wright has not lost that talent that made him a top 5 pick in the draft, and he can definitely have a season like we saw Matty Beniers have last season in his rookie campaign. Shane Wright has too much talent to be held down. He can make a serious run at a point-per-game pace and be an impactful player for the Seattle Kraken. Devin Levi, the Buffalo Sabres. The 6-foot, 184-pound Levi was drafted in the 7th round in the 2020 NHL draft, but has been creating a special path to the NHL on his own. Last season, Levi made his NHL debut playing 7 games for the Sabres, posting a record of 5-2 with a 2.94 GAA and a save percentage of .905. He looks sharp and not out of place. Levi has risen to the top of the Sabres goaltending chart and promises to take huge leaps this season to be Buffalo's starting goaltender. The only player in his way is goalie Craig Anderson, who is 41 years old. Placing Levi between the pipes full-time would not be the worst thing, as the Sabres are a team built on offense and defense. Levi and Buffalo both have bright futures, so why not put the future of their goaltending in net every night? In that sample we saw last season, he proved to be more than capable of handling NHL competition. Heck, if that sample size is any indication, Levi could be in the running for the Calder Trophy by the end of the season. Matthew Nies, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto Maple Leafs forward Matthew Nies was drafted in the 2nd round in the 2021 NHL draft and quickly became a player to watch in Toronto. At 6'2", 210 pounds, he has an NHL body to go along with his on-ice skills. Last season, Nies played for the University of Minnesota of the NCAA, recording 21 goals and 21 assists for 42 points in 40 games played. He then made his NHL debut with the Toronto Maple Leafs, totaling 1 point in 3 games. His debut was not an offensive outburst, but he did prove that he can play in the NHL. His speed, creativity, and moves to get open are some of the tools in his skill set. Now, Toronto does not have the deepest prospect pool, but they are loaded at the forward position. Matthew Nies, like Levi and Wright, could put up those impressive numbers to be a Calder Trophy finalist this season. He is offensively gifted and fits right into the loaded Toronto offense. He is in the right system and he is surrounded by the right players, so there is definitely potential for Matthew Nies to break out this season. Thanks for watching our videos. Don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.